Hey, for those of you who have been following this Plan 2050 that's been circulating in Winnipeg, we were providing updates last week as there was a public meeting that was being held on Thursday at 3 p.m. In Niverville in the middle of summer, middle of the workday, and it was quite interesting to see the response that all of you had to show up. That meeting actually ended up not happening. A bunch of people showed up. In fact, too many people showed up for the building that it was being held in southern Manitoba. And so the meeting was postponed, and they're going to announce when the next meeting will be. So kudos to all of you who did show up or who were concerned or who are concerned about how our government is in our cities and our provinces, is how they're handling really important issues like city planning, zoning, how we live with each other, regional ideas. And a bunch of you showed up as concerned citizens. So I just want to say shout out to all of you for doing that. We will keep you updated as to when the next planned meeting will be. As of today, there is no update as to when that will be. They're saying it will be at least 40 days away. So make sure to subscribe. To follow us here on our social medias. Just also, if you saw some of the things that we're putting out, we do a long form show called Citizen, Jeremy and I, where we're tackling these issues. And we're going to be diving into this. So you got to subscribe to our podcast or subscribe to our YouTube, which is at Real Citizen. And make sure to watch that because we're going to be providing updates for you and also other cities across Canada who are looking at going to be subscribing to these types of ideas. There's an interesting reaction when people become aware, and this is usually the problem of when countries go the direction that citizens don't want, is because citizens are unaware or they're not being active when they are aware. So shout out again to all of you who made a difference by showing up or by circulating this information or talking about it with your friends and family, because that's important to have these open dialogues and these open conversations regarding these types of issues. Just wanted to also bring up a couple things. I've been reviewing again Plan 2050 specifically for Winnipeg and the Winnipeg region, as there's a number of towns that's around that are signed up to this idea. I wanted first just to say, I think that we should watch the outrage response and not go to complete judgment thinking people have horrible intentions to stifle or to hinder. Sometimes they do, for sure. But we want to gather facts and information. First of all, we want to ask good questions. If there's things in our gut that doesn't feel right, we should be able to articulate and ask questions that poke holes in bad ideas. The theory is good ideas should always win over bad ideas, but only if we're willing to push to ask the right questions. So going through this plan of Winnipeg, of the Plan 2050 for Winnipeg and surrounding region, I came up with a number of questions that I was hoping to get you guys on the trail, that when you show up for the meeting, when the next one's announced, you can ask some good questions because poke some holes in the idea. So a couple of them that I came up with, I want to read to you one or two of them here, is like one of the ones you should be asking: will this plan allow a private corporation who is unelected have equal authority with the province and also supersede city council to manage your life as Winnipeggers? That's a good question to ask. So instead of outrage responding, is that you ask a tough question. And usually when you ask good questions, the answer itself will reveal intentions. It will reveal where they want to go. Why is there a private corporation that's handling how we live together as citizens? Normally in our democracy, that is an elected body. So why is this resorting to a private corporation? Private corporations don't necessarily have to reveal board minutes or information like that happen in private meetings, whereas in government and other entities, you need to do that for transparency, which the terms transparency is actually throughout the Plan 2050. So in the spirit of being transparent, these type of things should be asked. Another one you could ask is, why do you want to put nearly 400 people per acre in high density living? Like, what justifies that kind of idea? Why are we trying to make that a thing in southern Manitoba? Ask the question, why do you want to squish us together? Which we know traditionally increases cost of living, increases cost of housing dramatically. So what's the reason to justify this response? So when we ask smart questions, when we show we're informed, it will reveal holes in a plot. Not necessarily a plot in a negative way, but the idea of what they're behind. Another one is, are you wanting to heavily restrict gas-fueled vehicles? Because that's a big part of it, right? With road management and this idea of regionalism. Are you wanting, get them to say, yes, we want to restrict. The question is, why is that? Is that even feasible? Is that realistic in the next 30 years? We know that electric vehicles are making a run, and there's a lot of great about them. But there's also the other side of the coin with electric vehicles about how is that electricity mined? What do we do with those batteries? Is that better for the environment? Because this whole thing in the name of environmentalism, are we just making a problem go away by adding another problem that we're not really calculating? So asking those questions. The land density rules. Here's another question. The land density rules seem to potentially threaten the rights of property owners. I know myself as a property owner and one who is acquiring and wants to acquire more. I'm looking for more space. So if you're in that situation and you've got a property, or let's say you've got a decent sized property, are they going to supersede your right to property so that they can accomplish their goals? These are good questions to ask, right? Because that's fundamental to our citizenship is this right to own property. So why are you proposing an idea of this sort? Ask the board, ask the people on the board, was this an original idea that you guys came up with as a board? Where did this come from? Who was the one who brought this forth and said this would be a good idea? Or was there outside sources or outside influences? Will any of the board members willing to take responsibility? This was my idea to run forth. I'd like to know the process of how you guys came down to this. I think that's an interesting thing to know, to see how are they thinking, what are their influences, and what do they want to accomplish? Here's a good question. Why are you a private corporation? I would love to hear that response. So if you're going to that meeting, those are just 6 quick questions I came up with after reading through Plan 2050. If you haven't read through it, you should read through it. It's very important to know these type of things. I already mentioned about how the meeting is going to be planned in the next 40 days, give or take, or longer. We'll let you know. Subscribe, follow us, keep in the loop with Real Citizen. We are, myself and Jeremy, we are guys that love Canada. We're fathers, we're citizens. We believe in what this country is built upon. We believe that the best is yet to come for this country. This is a giant if you and I as citizens of this country are not only informed, but we are willing to take action, we're willing to speak up, we're willing to ask tough questions, we're willing to go that extra mile, because there is a duty and a responsibility that comes with citizenship. One thing I wanted to as well, which was a quote out of the Plan 2050, says transparency and openness are core attributes of Plan 2050. Now, if they're stating that, you can hold them accountable to that. If that's in the plan, you can hold them accountable to that. And that's something that why you can ask these tough questions. And until they prove otherwise, which maybe for some of you they have already, is that I would take them at their word and then ask the tough questions and see if their word fails, and then let their track record speak for themselves. Because as it states, and I hope that in this case, this is my David's personal opinion, my gut tells me, reading through the document and having a hard time, to be honest, gathering the jargon and the words that they use. There's times where I read whole paragraphs and I'm like, I'm not really getting what they're trying to say out of these paragraphs. And I'm not a dumb guy. I can figure things out pretty good. For me, that usually is a hint of, okay, is this being transparent? I ask that question, is it being transparent? When you're hosting a public hearing in mid-August on a Thursday in a town outside of Winnipeg during the daytime, it's not really the best time to gather people if you want public opinion, right? You would be thinking of a weeknight in the evening where people can get out and letting people know. I think there's certain mayors and there's different public officials on this board that they know. I'm not saying it was a ill intention. I'm just saying you know better. Like, you know better to host these in more convenient times to have proper input from citizens and from residents of Winnipeg and surrounding areas. If I was in that position, I would want to know because of transparency and openness. I'd want everyone to be fully aware and given ample opportunity to be educated and to ask the right questions and come to a conclusion together. Anyways, those are just some of my thoughts that are regarding this thing, Plan 2050. But you got to do your due diligence. Don't just be one of those people that takes a headline and runs with it and jumps to conclusions. No, dig, go beyond the headlines, find out what they're saying, give people benefit of the doubt when they deserve it, and then ask tough questions. Don't be afraid to ask tough questions. Don't be afraid. If your gut is telling you something, follow that instinct. Follow and see where it leads you, because we all want the best for Canada. We want the best for our provinces, and we want the best for our cities. And in this case right now with Winnipeg and Plan 2050, Winnipeg's my hometown. If you didn't know that, born and raised, I love Winnipeg. I'm back there all the time. Is that we want the best for Winnipeggers as well. And the question is this the best for Winnipeggers and surrounding area, or is it not? Good questions will reveal that real quick. Anyways, that's all for now. Stay tuned. Follow us on all of our socials, YouTube, podcasts. We'll be going longer form with this stuff as well, and we'll talk with you all soon.